And I really would like us to have a discussion. One, we haven't spent a lot of time talking about why on-time completion is so important. I've made some passing comments about it, but I know there is some frustration when people recognize how difficult it is for students to complete, and some wonder why we keep pressing that so much. In the context of especially the 21st Century Scholars Program, but also any of our other scholarship students in Indiana, you receive 4 years of financial aid and then it's gone. So if you don't complete on time, you run out of financial aid. And so that's one of the reasons why we keep talking about a little bit of tough love when it comes to trying to make sure that students, whenever possible, complete on time. I also want to talk a little bit about remediation. I mentioned it earlier, and the fact that we have so many students who enter college in need of remediation. And first of all, it's very discouraging to the students when they begin in non-credit bearing courses. And two, we know that they're highly unlikely to complete when they begin go down that road. And for that reason, we are in the process of working with especially our Ivy Tech partners and our Vincennes partners on the redesign of remediation. And we're really doing that, and I should say also with our high schools, because we're really looking at two tracks. We're looking at those who actually are going straight from high school into college, and what do we do to identify them earlier in high school to know if they in fact are not ready to do college level work, and make sure that we're providing that extra work while they're still in high school. And some would say that's way too late too. So we all know that moving that back as far as you can is very helpful. But even if we did that and we could identify those students and we could use their last 3 semesters of high school to double up on math or English language or whatever it is that they still are not prepared to do college level work, even if we got that all right, I mentioned all the people who actually begin at Ivy Tech as well. And a good number of them, the overwhelming majority of them, need remediation when they begin. So how do we redesign the remediation part of this? And so we're moving toward, with the endorsement certainly of the Commission and enthusiastically supported by Ivy Tech, what we call a co-requisite model for remediation, where you're taking both your remediation and your credit-bearing courses at the same time so that you don't have to finish the remediation before you can begin the credit-bearing work. Some may say that sounds impossible. I would only offer this, that the way we're doing it, it's not working very well. The students are not completing now. It's not a giant risk to take something and reinvent it if you're building on something that has not been highly successful. And remediation delivered the way it has been with all the good intentions that we've had. And for whatever reason, many of them may be personal choices that students make, but it hasn't been working. So we're in the process of doing both of those, looking at the redesign of college remediation and looking at the earlier identification of people who are in high school so that we drive remediation away from the high schools, into the high schools rather than into the colleges, and we redesign it if you have to provide it in college. Any questions about what we're doing with remediation? Some of you may have followed this during the last legislative session because there was a major bill that addressed this, requiring us to actually find identifiers for students in high school who are not prepared to do college level work. Part of that starts with an identification and a definition of what it means to be a career and college ready. So we're very engaged in that work as well. Before we sort of turn to your thoughts, I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we do at Learn More Indiana. I hope all of you are taking advantages of the services of Learn More Indiana. This is our outreach division of the Commission, where we really try to work with our partners and throughout the spectrum that I mentioned to make sure that students are academically and financially prepared to go to college. And we actually have new efforts for our adult students as well, so that when they get there, our adult students know what they need to do. For example, if they need to fill out FAFSA every year, it's not enough to do it one time. And what do you need to do to, how many credit hours do you need to take? And with the new legislations that we've written, you now have to finish 30 credit hours to get the maximum, a year, to get the maximum financial aid. If you fall down to 24, you still will get financial aid, you just won't get as much. On the other hand, if you're a 21st century scholar, you must complete 30. Now that's within a calendar year. So it used to be that you had to complete within 2 academic semesters. We've now extended it to the full calendar year. So if you dropped it to 12 credit hours, you could make up with a course in the summer. So we've tried to address some of those who might fall off. Now some of you who think this is really tough, remember that financial aid was only people were only eligible if they were full-time students before. There is a small part-time grant, but it's not enough money to really help. And this did nothing to impact the Pell money. So Pell still exists, although I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that I think the federal government is in the process of redesigning Pell as well, and may well move to a 15 credit hour model at the federal level. So all of this is to say that if you're counseling students who are receiving financial aid, you need to understand exactly what's happening at the state and federal level that's impacting the amount of federal aid that they receive. So that's part of what Learn More does. And we also have these annual campaigns that we run that we hope you're very familiar with. The quality of the work that we're providing at the Commission, I can say this because I don't have anything to do with the design, but I will say that those who do, working with Jason, it's award-winning work. So take advantage of the work that's out there, the prints that we have for College Go Week, for example, which is coming up the last week of September. All the efforts that we have to work with you to make sure students are starting to think about going to college at that point. And I'm talking at this point, not the young students so much, although we have efforts, don't we, for the early students as well. This is especially important for people who are beginning to make their college plans. So that's in the fall. We have our Cash for College, which begins in January. That coincides with the filling out of FAFSA and making sure that you understand all of that. In that regard, I hope you will go again on our website and look at our college cost estimator. We have gone live to make sure that students can do, in a comparative way, students and families can look at what the net cost is for college, and then all the ways that they can actually reduce their costs. So the top and then what they actually would pay at the end. So make sure you have them do that. They can compare Ball State to Ivy Tech to Wabash, and they can figure out what the sticker price is, and then what the difference would be if they got an academic honors diploma, for example, rather than a Core 40, how much financial aid they could get. So this is another way that the Commission is trying to help you in your efforts. We also have our summer Know How to Go campaign. So these are annual campaigns that you can count on with materials from the Commission, with our website that's up and running. I also encourage you to keep working with all your organizations who are providing mentors for your 21st Century Scholars students, but also the rest of your students as well. We believe a lot of what we're doing for our 21st Century Scholars actually could apply to any college-going student, but especially those who are first-generation college-going students. And then, of course, the coalitions that are working around the state, and we're talking to you today. So we're very happy with all the work that is underway. We think this is going to really help us turn the corner and improve not just our access to college, but our completion rates as well. So with that, I think my charge was at this point to actually